I can see a lot of our friends who do not have a good vicinity from there. So there are a lot of seats here. I request you all, if you would like to see the stage of the podium here, you can shift this side. I'll leave the choice to you. Thank you for acknowledging my request. We'll be waiting a few more moments for a few of our friends to join us back in the hall. So let us start today's event with a very simple yet interesting quote. At its heart, engineering is about using science to find creative, practical solutions. It's not only a quote, but I think it's an absolute fact. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the National Engineers Day Symposium 2022, organized by ASBL. I do that every time I do an event, and I start the evening or the event with a huge round of applause. Just, yes, to see how alive we are. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, guys. I'm Sabrina, your host for the evening, and we all have gathered here in admiration of Dr. Mokshikundam Vishveshwaraya, fondly remembered as the father of Indian engineering. Thank you all for being present here today. We have eminent personalities from different sections of the industry to enlighten us with their thoughts in today's panel discussion. Needless to say, we are all grateful for the contribution of Dr. Vishveshwaraya, one of the biggest nation builders of 20th century. He showed us the path and affected countless lives through his dedication and sheer genius. So let us start today's evening by calling on stage the CEO of ASBL, Mr. Ajitesh Korupolu. Please can we hear it? I'll take 2 more moments here. He is the torchbearer of the organization's vision, values, and strategy. Ajitesh is an economics graduate with minor in mathematics and philosophy from Purdue University, USA. After graduation at the age of 23, ventured into entrepreneurship to drive ASBL. He strives to drive continuous innovation in the organization across systems, operations, and people. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ajitesh.
Firstly, thank you, Sabrina, for the introduction. So, friends, good evening, and I welcome you all to the celebration of National Engineers Day. Right? I'm glad that you all could make it to celebrating and honoring Dr. Vishveshwaraya. Right, so before I start with the presentation, I would just like to give a brief outline of what I'm going to cover, the topics which I'm going to cover. Right. So, firstly, I will be talking about engineering and its foundation, and Dr. Vishveshwaraya's contribution towards the foundation of Indian engineering. Then I'll be talking about the current day challenges and some of the solutions to those problems. Right? So friends, as we all know, Dr. Visvesvaraya was one of the biggest nation builders of the 20th century. He is fondly remembered as the father of Indian engineering. So let me briefly introduce him to you. So friends, we have seen what a great problem solver Dr. Visvesvaraya has been. He has solved public problems like water, like drainage, right? So a lot of problems which impacted millions of lives. Imagine what would have happened had he not, like you've seen in the video, right? Imagine what would happen had he not built the Himad Sagar and the Usman Sagar lakes, right? As we all know, right, these two lakes supplied fresh drinking water to the city over the last 35, 40 years. What is a city, right? A city is a space which can constantly deliver on its citizens' needs, right? Dr. Visvesvaraya contributed to the most basic need, that is of water, drainage, and these sort of things, right? A lot of the growth which Hyderabad is experiencing today, some of the foundations were laid back then, 100 years, approximately 100 years back. Dr. Visvesvaraya is truly the father of Indian engineering. He's the he's a great guy who laid down the basics of engineering, right? He gave solutions to several complex engineering problems. He walked so that we could run. So how do we build upon his foundation, right? He laid a massive foundation, but how do we take it from there? This is where I come to some of the current problems, what we are facing, and how we can build upon his foundation to solve them. So the big current problem what we as a nation are going to deal with is urbanization. So let's take a look at this graph, right? In 1961, approximately 80 million people are living in our cities, right? Now, fast forward to 60 years. In 2021, that number is 493 million people. Almost in 60 years, 400 million people have migrated from the villages to the cities. But let's take a look at the next statistic, which is the most interesting of all. By 2041, we will be having 936 million people living in our cities. That is adding another 400 million people in just a matter of 20 years. Right? Something which has taken 60 years in the past, now we have to do it in the next 20 years. And we all know the sort of the problems which urbanization comes with. Right? Urbanization is very good for the country. It greatly, cities are the economic engines. Right? Cities are a big contributor to the GDP of a nation. Right? But along with urbanization comes large-scale problems. The problems of providing clean drinking water, health and sanitation, security, and fundamentally ease of living, right? Every citizen expects ease of living. So urbanization is the giant elephant in the room which we Indians have to look out for and come up with quick solutions because we don't have much time. We have one third the time. So to urbanize at such a scale, we need to engineer at scale. Engineering provides large scale solutions, right? What is this engineering at scale? It's very simple. It's like to increase the output, to build more with less people in less time. As we can see, there is less time. From 60 years, we only have 20 years. And we all know there are severe labor shortages. Even the labor supply in the industry is not going up. In fact, there are several reports which state that we have sort of reached a threshold. So with the same or lesser laborers, we need to increase the output 3 times more. That's engineering at scale, right? So for any large-scale engineering, solution, there are 4 key pillars what you've identified, right? We need a robust ecosystem to deliver engineering at scale. So one is that of a skilled workforce, right? The other one is design excellence. We need great amount of optimization and standardizations in design for us to deliver at scale. And the other is technological brilliance. We need to have state-of-the-art technology technology is a great scale enabler. And then we need a lot of organized capital because none of this agenda is possible if organized capital doesn't back it. Like we all know how the banking reforms in the home loan segment in the 90s really paved way for such large-scale urbanization. The same way we need a lot of capital, organized capital to move into these problems, right? So from my perspective, I'll be keenly focusing upon the technological brilliance, the sort of technology which is required to deliver engineering at scale. So, friends, let me share some of the panels which I have. See we all know what did technology do in the field of logistics, right? We are in the field of healthcare, in the field of banking, right? When was the last time that any one of us stood in a banking line to conduct a simple banking transaction? At least I don't remember in the last 3-4 years, right? So that's what technology has done there. But to put it in perspective, see, it's not again that technology was something suddenly which happened in the banking field. Right? It was always there from the last 15-20 years because banks were scaling up their operations in the past 15-20 years. They had the technology. But what led to the revolution? What we are seeing in the last 3 to 4 years, especially post-pandemic, that was UPI. What did the UPI do? UPI made the entire technology so simple that the masses can use it. See, this is very important. Unless technology becomes easy enough and accessible to masses, it cannot revolutionize the industry. That's what happened in banking. The UPI system made technology so simple enough that the masses could use it, thereby revolutionize the entire sector. Like last year, right, in India we conducted 68 billion financial transactions, the highest in the world. We are beating China twice over. So that's the revolution what we are able to create. Now, what's an equivalent to that in the construction sector? Right? Now, again, the construction sector, too, like the banking, has technology. We don't typically associate construction and technology, but it has technology in the form of design softwares, in the form of ERP systems, right? In the form of several MIS tools like the cost analytics and stuff like that. But why couldn't technology, revolutionize or transform the sector? Just like what has happened in the UPI, a similar thing needs to happen in the field. Technology needs to become easy and accessible to large-scale masses. Without that, it's very difficult to transform the sector, right? So, one of the big problems, right, to take technology to that level, it needs to be easy. Like in the construction sector, who are the masses? Right? It's the laborers. They single-handedly form around 90% of the supply chain. And they are semi-skilled to less skilled with regarding to technology. Mind you, they are very skilled in their task. Like a plumber knows very well how to fix the pipe. The concreting guy knows very well how to lay the concrete. But they are pretty much they're not very handy with technology. So we need to create simple enough solutions which can bring them into the supply chain and then transform the industry. So I take this opportunity to showcase some of the solutions what we have created to really take technology to our laborers so that they can participate in this entire transformation process. So friends, let me just briefly explain the screen what you are seeing, right? So you see the top bar, these are all components. Just like how when one is building a car, right, there are several components to a car, like a car door or like a car seat. The same way, a building also has components. We broke it down into several components, 112 to be precise. And then what we did, we took all the activities, like let's say for example, the flat is a component, right? This component can be built by performing these activities in a certain order, in a certain sequence. So we map each of this component with each of the activity and we establish relations between each of the activities. So that by integrating and mapping data across all these three layers, we were able to generate a very powerful and a very simple data visualization tool. So friends, if you take a look at this, look at the grid, what you're seeing. It's essentially talking about water supply pipings, right? So, it's one of the work which needs to be done to execute an apartment or to build a project. So this is where the idea of simplicity had to be kept in mind. Like, we took inspiration from a traffic signal, for example. See, nobody needs to train themselves to use a traffic signal, right? Maybe we are taught right when we were in our first grade or something, but after that nobody needs to be taught. So what does the traffic signal do? It simply communicates information using lights, right? Using different colors. So we wanted to come up with a similar thing because only then it can be used on a large scale manner. Right? So if you look at this thing, and this we are sharing with our laborers on a real-time basis, so that they are totally in sync with what is happening across the project and where he or she should be going and working. So take a look at this. See, wherever there is green, you don't worry about it. Work is done. Right? So wherever there is red, there are some quality issues. You need to go and resolve them. So wherever there is blue, that is where your work is there. See, one of the complex problems which happens day in, day out in the construction site is that of dynamic work allotment. See, a laborer knows what he or she should be doing. Like a plumber will never go into concreting work. A concreting person will never go into plumbing work. But as a plumber, where all can I go and do my work? Right? This looks simple, but it's a very complicated work allotment which goes in day out by between the laborers, the engineers, and the project managers. What we have observed for is that when this process happens, right, there is a lot of time wastage. Like what happens when the project manager is not there, or what happens when the engineer is not there, or what happens. Let's say we can't remember 100 things on our mind. We just remember 10 things, right? So it is this time which is lost. Like just like you and me, the laborer also wants to work for 8 hours a day. But what typically happens is they come to site and they lose, 1 to 2 hours to just taking the work allotted. That 2 hours at one labor, imagine the scale now. A site like Spire, which is one of our sites, and this is all like live data what I'm showing you. A site like this, on any given day, there are 600 odd laborers. So 600 people, even 1 hour getting wasted a day, that is 600 hours per day. And a project like this runs for 1200 days. Now imagine the scale, right? So we are, it's saving these small, hours of time which can contribute to, if done in industry scale, can contribute greatly in reducing the time, because we don't have much time in organizing. We just have to do what has been done in 60 years, we need to do it in just 20 years. So we need to save time at every transaction wherever possible, because time waste is of nobody's importance. Right? The laborer doesn't win, the builder doesn't win, neither the customer wins, and integrating the nation loses. So by using this system, we were able to, laborers were able to plan their work much more efficiently and deploy their manpower on the basis of the work front, the concept of work, how much work is available inside. So this is, one of our, one of our key solutions. So friends, even, for all simplicity, what we have built in this, it took us 8 years and 44 iterations to achieve to this scale of simplicity. Because though this looks very simple, it's very complex on the back end. Just like the UPI, in the front end, it's really simple. You just take a phone and scan the QR code and then conduct the transaction. But the back end technology is very, very complex. So this too is, for data to be shown in this manner, we almost collect 10 billion data points during its life cycle of 4 years, right? Where all our engineers and supervisors constantly keep feeding the system data through their mobile application, right? And apart from that, we have defined several neural layers, right? What are neural layers? They basically rules and rules and rules. Because this system needs to know, for me to build a flat, this particular activity needs to be done. Whereas for me to build a flat, some other activity needs to be, needs to be done. So that's the complexity behind the system, and so that's what has got us to. And we feel by sharing it with laborers, and in a simple manner, they will be able to probably plan better, thereby cut down time and help us in engineering at scale and delivering and contribute to the solutions which needs to be done for the organization at scale. So thank you, friends. So that's my brief presentation. Before we go on to the next one, just like how engineering at scale, the technology is one of the solutions. One of the solutions of the problem of engineering at scale. The other problems what we have seen are right skilled workforce, design excellence, and organized capital. So we have an eminent panel of people who themselves are practitioners in their respective fields. Through which we will be discussing on the next set of topics. Thank you.
Well, technology truly is the catalyst for growth in future. So thank you so much for taking us through that, and of course talking about the father of Indian engineering. Thank you so much. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the session which you're all been waiting for, the panel discussion. So we will introduce you all to our guest for today, who is going to lead this panel discussion. To begin with, we have our chief guest for the evening, Mr. Ramesh Mantha, the Director of NE Consulting Services Private Limited. A silver medalist in civil engineering from Bombay University, Mr. Mantha has over 40 years of experience in design and project management in India and abroad in a wide range of civil engineering projects. His passion for his work transcends the field of civil engineering and extends to building smart, sustainable, and future-ready communities. And we truly are very honored, sir, for you being here. Thank you so much for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Can we welcome him to the huge round of applause? Next, we have with us Mr. Anuj Kapoor, the founder and managing partner of Stratcap Advisory LLP. Yes, of course, we welcome the ladies round of applause. Mr. Anuj is a senior strategy and investment consultant with over 18 years of experience across diverse sectors. Prior to setting up his own advisory venture, Anuj held a senior management position at leading multinational organizations such as Ernst & Young LLP and Alexandria Real Estate Equities USA. Anuj also runs a social impact venture which is engaged in an initiative of propagating education and training methods such as coaching and skill-based training programs for aspiring students in rural India. So thank you so much for being over here, Mr. Anuj. We also have Dr. Bhupati Sridhar, the Civil Head of Department at Vasami College of Engineering. Sir, can we have you here, sir, please? So Dr. Sridhar obtained his PhD degree in Transportation Engineering in the year 2002. He is actively involved in various activities to promote engineering education. For over 2 decades, he organized and coordinated the value-added course on geomatics for civil engineering students. So we welcome you, sir. Next, we have with us Mr. Chandrasekhar Babu Vasireddy, the CEO and co-founder of InCircles Technologies. He has 19 years of global experience with a proven track record of delivering IT solutions in India, Europe, the Middle East, Australia, and New Zealand. Currently leading the product development and business development for InCircles Construction Management product suite called InCircles Arena. So put your hands together once again. Thank you, sir. Well, of course, we do have you again on stage along with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you all have guessed the topic for today, but just to put the light on it, today's topic is going to be revolving around reimagining engineering in India. So, that chair is for me. So, with your permission, I will take my seat there to moderate this session. You can clap for it too. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us over here. Well, you must be wondering this lady in red. She is sitting and she is going to moderate. So I will say a few words about where I come from and why I'm so happy to be over here on this stage to moderate this particular panel discussion. My name is Sabrina and I am into public speaking for the last 13 years. And such panel discussions is what is food for my brain. I really live for this. And my education background is I've done my IT engineering from MJCET. I'm a 2009 pass out, even though I'm not a practicing engineer, but I do value what you all are doing. And I've done my MBA marketing from Osmania University. So I feel privileged to be over here on the stage to moderate this panel discussion. All right, so let us begin this discussion with Mr. Ramesh first. Sir, you are the most senior most. You all will agree with me? Yes, he's the most senior, most engineer, practical engineer here. So this is a very, very important question for all of us, even though it's a very wide question. So over the course of your experience, which is spanning around 40 years, what changes have you seen in the structural and civil engineering?
Good afternoon. Let me wish everyone a happy Engineers Day. Let's start answering the question which has been posed to me. Yeah, I just realized this, that the 40 years has become 45 because I graduated in 77 from Bombay University, and so it's 45 now, right, what it is. Right. So, yes, in these 45 years, I've had varied experiences with in India as well as abroad. And at the outset, I would like to remember all those engineers who were my mentors during this journey. And some of them are not even, one of them who I would particularly like to mention is a Pakistani engineer from Imperial College of London, who was my boss in Saudi Arabia. And he started off with that mind block of how what a structural engineer has to be and what he has to do was intriguing to me. Maybe I had the knowledge, I had the reason, but that was where he started off. So I do wish to remember all my mentors on this occasion. Now coming to this, yeah, when technologically when we see what happens is when in 77, I tell all my engineers that we started with slide rules, then we came to a calculator. Then when I get my engineering, we had done programming in Fortran. And we had to write it and send it out to Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, where it was run on their computers, and then we used to get the results. And then we used to interpret that and do our work. And today, if you see, it's such a sea change that anything can be done. The computer on your table is so fast and it can allow you to do so many iterations and so many different the things. So where you are able to bring in a lot of value engineering, you're looking at different solutions at the same time. If we had to do that, it would have taken us months, what we are doing today. And also maybe we would not have been able to address every issue that we are trying to address. And especially today, Hyderabad is seeing a huge change where the structures are no longer 5 stories or even 10 stories. We are now talking of 30, 40, 50, and 200 meter high towers. So these are really tall buildings. And where the structural design takes a different meaning, because earlier the smaller structures would have been only designed for their weight or the gravity loads. Whereas today we have to talk about earthquake, we have to talk about wind, and all these govern and they make the building really behave. I would say that generally what to some of my colleagues or engineers who come for an interview, students, that we have to be the doctors. So we have to understand the structures. If we think that the building is not moving, no, it is not. It is deflecting. There is movements. And when we are talking of today of about 200 meter tower, when we see it will really move, it will move. So sometimes those structures can, the movement can be felt. So we have to do damping to see that human comfort is maintained. So there has been a sea change in the space. Hyderabad is growing, and for that we require our team of engineers also to understand structures better, understand that different solutions are required, and when we say the different solutions, we have to understand the behavior of the structures under various loads, not just the self load, the dead load, or even the wind, and interaction between all these. So today we don't have only a structural engineer, we have to associate ourselves with multiple disciplines. We have to have someone on wind engineering who would do actually, after we design the building, we will give them our building parameters. And he will actually run the building model and blow wind through it and do a wind tunnel testing to give us the forces actually what would be coming up. Because not everything can be defined by the code, because we are now going into an area where codes are giving us the basics, but actual forces can be different, so we have to analyze that. So when we say yes, we have computers today, we have software, what is still required is an engineer who understands what those results are giving us and how to interpret them and use them. Because computers are a very powerful tool today, and they help make the calculations and all those very simple and fast. But still, it is the engineer who has to feed the data. He has to feed the correct data. has to be able to understand what is it that he is feeding in and what should be the results. He should be able to anticipate the results and to see that whether the results are in line. So it requires a lot of fundamental understanding of the subject, and that is where engineers come in, and structural engineers have to have that aptitude where they would be ready to understand the behavior and go ahead. So, as I said, that is one. And the next differences that we have seen is when we started off as a career, shuttering materials, the way we were working were all different. So if we started off with wooden shuttering, then metal shuttering, today we have aluminum lightweight and all so materials are changing. And the change in India is all these were not available to us earlier. When I was abroad and worked there for 14 years, I was exposed to all these. And after coming back, I was able to implement because after 14 years, we started coming into India. And today, I would say India is on par. Things which are there available outside are available to us today. But at that stage, what I had done 10 years ago was being introduced to me as a product when I come back to India. So the information available, products available, everything has changed drastically. We are nowhere behind. Everything is accessible to us. It is only for us to identify, study it, and use it. The other aspect which I would like to touch upon is materials. There is huge change in materials that are available today. But even that, what the new materials that are available come along with it certain challenges which say this has to be used in this manner, otherwise I will not be able. So it's not just a material or a result, it's understanding, workmanship, method of application, all these form part of the engineering. So if you see today, knowledge is available, tools are available to deliver. It requires application and an understanding of the subject. And that is what is happening today. And I would say, yes, we are moving quite fast and understanding, and even within the last 2-3 years, people, the understanding of the tall building is much better to most of the co-stakeholders who are there with us. Otherwise, we had to explain, these are tall buildings, these behave differently, these require certain different conditions. These are all there. And today, I can confidently say, yes, there is an understanding on behalf of all the stakeholders, much better understanding. So in that sense, we are moving in the right direction. I think, yeah, I would just end it with this, and then we can take it any further. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, you have fairly answered our question in terms of what's the revolutions and what are the changes it went through in your practice of 45 years. Moving on to our next panelist. Sir, Mr. Anuj, this question is for you because I have learned that he is the man who will be talking about capital and finance. So he's from the finance background, I'm right, sir?
That's right.
Yes. So probably the question will also be revolving around that. The question for you, sir, is what is the importance of organized capital in the urbanizing at scale?
Thank you, everyone. I would first like to start with thanking the invitation. And I just realized that I'm probably the only non-engineer sitting on the panel. So my only contribution to engineering is I can spell it right. So
Finance is a very important part of construction.
that's true, and I think that's your question is also revolving around that. Definitely, organized capital is very critical in today's world, and especially for the projects related to real estate or urban infrastructure. By nature of the industry itself, these industries are very capital intensive. Right from the start of the project, from the point of land application to approvals to the construction stage and development, you need to deploy a lot of capital upfront. And when we talk about capital and projects which are very large format, then the capital requirement is also very much. Like I know of projects which are like 100 acres township, or I have worked on projects which are like 4,000 acre plus integrated townships. To acquire that kind of land, institutions or organizations have taken at least 6 years. Those projects have been going on. I know of one project which I worked on in 2006, which is called possibly the largest integrated township in India, called Pallava City. I worked on it in 2006, and it is still continues to getting developed. So, where the organized capital play a very, very critical role, especially at scale, is from 2 points. One, when we talk about scale, typically these projects take a lot of time to develop. Now, globally, it is a very proven fact that real estate cycles are usually in the range of about 6 to 7 years. Now, typically markets will go up within 6, 7 years. You'll see it, slow down, and then there's a phase of 3, 4 years, and then it again goes down. Now, if you're talking about a project at a very large format, large scale, some of these projects are very prone to see 2 or 3 cycles. Now, especially if you notice any global projects which has got challenges, large format projects I'm talking about, most of those challenges could be related to the lack of capital planning. Like they were not sufficiently capitalized, or they were not, capital planning was not done properly, and that is when they get into the different side of the real estate cycle. The cash flow becomes very challenging, and then the project starts going down. And it's a very proven fact. It's a very common sense thing. Everybody knows about who works in real estate, that the moment the project development activity slows down, it directly has its impact on the sales. You will typically notice where the construction activity slows down, the sales also starts getting down very significantly. So for a developer point of view, it's very critical to keep on doing development in a fashion which where the construction doesn't stop, or there's not much of a variation. Of course, market cycle, you need to do some planning around it. And for that, organized capital is very, very critical. The second reason why I said organized capital, especially for scale, has become very complicated and very critical is when you talk about very complex projects. Like Sir rightly mentioned, in HLI capital, or small scale capital in non-mature markets, when we talk about G+5 structures, G+10 structures, you don't need that kind of capital. Even people can build it from their internal accruals. The moment real estate market matures and we talk about structures which are 50 crores, 70 crores, there the capital requirement and the complexity of the project is of a different nature. Now, if it is not sorted out upfront, where will you get that kind of capital which will sustain a project of that size? Again, projects get stuck, and it kind of plays with the sentiment of the market. 2 projects in the entire cycle will get stuck, get slowed down, the whole sentiment goes down, and slowly the whole market gets into a different negative cycle. So it's very important from both these perspectives to keep your capital planning very sorted out whenever anybody has to play at scale. Third, and the last point I just wanted to cover, it also to a large extent depends on the asset class. So like, let's say for example, scale is not only to me is in terms of how much square foot you're developing, it is also in terms of complexity and the asset class of the project what you're doing. Let's say for example, in today's world, I'm building a data center. Now data center as such could be just a 200,000 square foot of a project in terms of square foot, but the capital deployed would be more than something where I have to do residential of 1 million square, or even probably more than that. So the complexity or the type of capital required for that is of a different nature, because your cash flows from the project will not start till the time the project is completed. The same goes with commercial projects. Like you build offices, your rentals will only start once it gets completed. So your type of capital also changes depending upon what asset class you are dealing with. And that is where the organized capital makes a lot of difference, because there are different kind of capital pool available for each asset class. So that's what I think from my understanding, why the organized capital is very, very critical in today's.
Thank you so much, sir. I think it's really satisfying. And as you rightly said, it looks like capital is directly proportional to whatever the nature to project, no matter what the project is. I think that's the take we can take from us with your explanation. So thank you so much, sir. I'm sure there are a lot of questions revolving around everyone over here because the topic is really huge when it comes to capital for a project. Before we move on to our next panelist, it's a small announcement I would like to do to our friends from the media. I request you to please stay back. We have, after the panel discussion is done, we have a special session where you can have interaction with the panelists. The media can have direct questions to our panelists in and around today's day and, of course, the future of engineering. Thank you. So moving on to our next panelist. Next question I would like to ask Dr. Bhupati Sridhar, sir. Hello, sir. Welcome to you. Of course, in our panelists, you're the only one from the X background. So, of course, my question will also be revolving around the same. So, from an academic point of view, what steps have you taken to prepare a future-ready engineer?
Yeah, already Madam said, and Hardman in the layers. I mean, others are industry. I am the person from academic institution. It's a right question to relate to the educational institution. Every time we are interacting with the industry people, they are saying who are the students coming for the interview, they are not up to the mark. Today also, just half an hour back also, to whom I have interacted, the same questions we are getting. Because as educational institutions, we have our own constraints. Definitely, the students has to be trained according to the current state of art. Just now, earlier two speakers have given the developments in the structural engineering by the Montessor, but we are not, strictly speaking, not cope up with that particular trend, what is happening in the field, that we have to mobilize because of the constraints. For example, you take my own college, where I am working, Northern College of Engineering. They are autonomous institutions. We have our own constraints. We are affiliated to Usman University. The rules, regulations given by the university, we have to mobilize. That is the situation. Still, as autonomous institutions, we have academic freedom. We are changing slowly, not on par with the growth in the real ground situation. That is the one point. Then, as autonomous institutions, yes, we are changing to some extent by incorporating some of the field experts. Even ASBL, All India Council for Technical Education, which is giving the permission to start the Indian colleges, also given certain leverages. We can recruit the professionals from the field 20%. So, as adjunct faculty, we can recruit so that the industry inputs we are giving to the students within the scheme of instructions. And also, they also change certain extent. To suit for the current situation, the multidisciplinary engineering approach is most important because every college has to think about forcibly to collapse the traditional boundaries of the individual engineering approach to interdisciplinary approach. Now, whatever the earlier two speakers have given, that to solve that particular situation, to solve at present engineering problems, this is required. Interdisciplinary approach. For that, it is required to change the curriculum. And that particular curriculum has to suit to the current state of art of the technology. And that has to be integrated with liberal arts. So that once that is there, the students can develop ecosystem for innovation. Once that innovation comes, then we can see the wonders from the students. And teaching learning process by the faculty to train the students. So the three key points what we have to indicate is interdisciplinary approach of engineering. Second one is curriculum changes. Third one is teaching learning process by the faculty members. Just for statistical data, there are 45,000 colleges are there in India, out of which 4,500 engineering colleges and polytechnic colleges. Out of which 250 Indian colleges are there in Telangana, 150 colleges are there in Andhra Pradesh. The most Indian colleges, more number, are there in the states of Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, then Telangana. Around 24 lakhs of seats are available for engineers, out of which 90,000 seats are available in our own state, Telangana. To tackle this issue, readiness for the industry by the students, a lot of industry institute interaction is required. There, that gives some of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Well, you just mentioned that before answering our question, you said that you were the all around, right? But I should say that we are celebrating the Engineers Day because of people like you, because the base comes from the academics. So, huge round of applause for what you're doing for our students. Moving on to our next panelist, who's right here, Mr. Vasudev. We all are talking about technology, but there is something very special, which is construction tech. Right? So everyone, when we talk about technology, we think it's computers and IT companies, but there are significant use and challenges in construction field for the city, which is construction tech. So I would want to know from you, what are the challenges in the construction tech which you're going through at this point of time?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. I feel that it is a right day to discuss about this topic. I think I'm privileged to be part of this. Right? Thank you so much. I think you're talking about challenges, right? Firstly, I think technology is good, but we have to go things it's very hard because everything like we see every day is challenging. We actually spend very difficult times. Okay, it's just like asking a question to a doctor just before they go to your surgery. Like how challenging it is for you, your job. It is extremely challenging because the kind of things that we are dealing with is something pretty much new to the industry itself. Because as everyone is talking about, right, the adoption of the technology in construction, it's just starting, right, in terms of the scale, because, right, I think there are reasons for it, but from our perspective, right, so I would say the first fundamental challenge that we perceive is alignment, right. See, you see a big companies, right, you have Google, Microsoft, and all the big companies, they are there in almost every sector, but why are they not there on the field? On the construction field, where they're still not there yet, because it's not easy. It's not easy to be there. Okay, it's quite a complicated space to be. Okay, so for us to be aligned to kind of a vision that these people are talking about, right? Engineering, scale, and everything in terms of these things. So it's because we had a lot of we didn't succeed in our first decade. Okay, we had quite a lot of failure stories. So the fundamental item that we found is alignment. In the sense like, so let me elaborate what I mean about alignment. Okay. So there, as a construction industry, there are a lot of things that they wanted to do. They wanted to build a lot of efficiency to build at scale and everything, right? So we need to be taking their vision. Right? We can't, it's not about doing great things. It's about doing right things. It is about doing things which are needed for them. Okay. So in that sense, we need to have a more inclusive approach. So we need to ground down and be part of their team. Okay. Understand what their day-to-day priorities are. I think that has been a great learning for us. So for that to happen, we need to rediscover our business models. So how do we operate? We need to rediscover operating models, right? We need to be innovative in the way that we operate as a business, right? So then we felt that like we can't be a service provider. We needed to be a solution provider. In that sense, we need to be part of their team. We need to find out a business model that helps us to be part of one of their extended team. Right? So I think I said that we are rediscovering in terms of the way that we operate and then get aligned to the industry vision and the kind of business that we're trying to deal with. The second challenge is about, again, I'm sorry to say this, but as an industry, construction industry, it is a low trust industry. Okay, it's our observation. They don't generally trust anyone to come down and start asking them to do some create some impact. Right? It's generally low trust and high fear industry. That is why you also see the rate of change, especially in the space of right? Because all these are related. If you have low trust, high fear, obviously the rate at which can you grow, the rate at which you change is going to have an impact. Okay, that's why you see that the technology adoption in this industry is relatively slower. Okay, so then how do we operate? Because they're not trusting anyone, how do we go and build that trust? Right? So then we need to go beyond our comfort zone, right? Okay, so when we actually operate in that industry, we need to have extra level of empathy, we need to have extra level of patience, we need to have extra level of perseverance. Okay, so we need to be more than what we are. Okay, and that is what we do. Okay, so that's whenever our first idea of if you have a customer, our first idea is to how do we make sure that they are comfortable with it? How do we make sure that they trust us? So by doing more, because by participating more, by listening more. Okay, so that is something that building the trust is really a key component of the challenge. And another one is the complexity of the technology. As Tej mentioned, you're showing that around close to 10 million data points they need to process and see one of the complexity in the technology, right? So one of the complexity in conventional project management itself. If you just follow the plan, that becomes a source of inefficiency. So because you have thought something is going to work for you for 2 years, and if you're just following it, then you are creating a source of inefficiency. And your system should understand what's happening on the ground every day, every hour. What's happening on the real ground and process the data and give the kind of instruction that this is planned by you, but this is not the right thing to do today. Right? Maybe this is something else to do right now. So the technology has to go to the field and capture that real data. If you don't see a real data, you just follow the plan. So I think we are advancing in a way because that's what happens when you're traveling a distance A to distance B, right? That's what your Google Maps is going to do, right? It's going to process the data and information and just say that don't go in this route, go in this route. But we need to go a step ahead in construction. It's not about just showing the route. We also have to adjust the velocity, the speed. You are producing these many units in these days. Boss, you need to increase your velocity. If you go with this pace, you're not going to be hit on time. And this is your window. So hit maximum in this window. So for that to happen, we need to have access to the data on the ground, right? And that space where we are. And for that to happen, we need to build a complex technology services to start that to happen because the real-time capturing the data is not an easy thing, right? So we need to make the process of capturing much more easier, much more convenient. Right? So that is something that's good. This is kind of a technology challenge. Above all, creating a culture for us, right? Because we are not dealing with we are not in a simple space because, as we said, we have to do more to be in this business. As I said, if you don't have that extra level of empathy and all that, you will not be able to be in a business. Okay, so we need to create a culture inside our institution, our organization, so that apart from the skills that we need to have a strong technical skills, okay? But above all the skills, we also need to have personalities, which can actually display these characteristics. So creating a culture where we're not just a group of competent people, but we also are a group of personalities. So I think these are the day-to-day challenges that we deal with. Right. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, and you round of applause. Yes, I think the way Mr. Masi had answered this question, I could see a lot of agitation also. But it looked like that You have rightly said that it's a culture which has to come into the industry, and I think ASBL is getting that culture and taking construction tech quite seriously. So I think your prayers have been heard, and the industry is actually leading to that direction. And I hope that your challenges which you have mentioned will be overcome very, very soon in the industry. So thank you so much, Mr. Vasi Reddy. Now moving on to Mr. Ajitesh. Well, I think you were the right person when he was his challenges were being told. I think a lot of your pointers in the presentation was revolving around technology. But the question which I want to ask you at this point in this discussion is, you have spoken about reducing time, right? So while from an engineering and delivery point of view, time is of essence, of course, you have made it very clear. But can you shed some light on its business impact?
Thank you, Sabrina, for the question. See, time is of great essence to every stakeholder in the supply chain. Right? For the customer, like when he buys a flat, he's paying the EMI here and the rent in the house where he's staying. So he's spending money like on both the sides. So you cut down on time. You not only are going to give him a handover earlier, right? He's going to even save up on his rent because he's going to move in earlier, right? And let's take time from the standpoint of a contractor, a laborer, right? From a contractor perspective. See, let's say a contractor is getting paid for 100 units of work, right? And for 100 units of work is getting paid 100 rupees of work, right? And what doesn't matter whether he's doing that work in 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months, he's getting paid the same amount. That's not changing, right? So with technology and data, if we can cut down the time, the same 100 rupees instead of earning in 9 months, he can earn it in 3 months, or he can earn it in 6 months. So imagine the cash flow expedition. He's going to have money much earlier than him, thereby he can start investing in improving his supply chain or scaling up his business. So that's how he grows from being a small contractor to a mid-level contractor to a big contractor. That's from a contractor perspective. Imagine that from a vendor perspective, somebody who supplies material. Right? If he gets to know exactly that, okay, this person needs this material at this time, then he can plan accordingly his entire facility. Right? He can take in more orders because in anticipation of delivering our order, they might have to keep their machinery idle for some time. And anything which is lying idle or which is lying or which is waiting is of net weight loss to the country. Right? Because it's not producing anything. Be it a machine or be it a person, all of us should be producing something or the other. Right? So these are, this is how you can greatly, this is how time can tangibly and commercially benefit different stakeholders. See, today's gone are the days where businesses meant like it's a zero-sum game. For me to win, somebody has to lose. Today, we have reached a stage where if we plan well and if everybody are in tune, everybody can win from this game. Right? Be the contractors, the customers, the developer, everybody. And when all of us win, then we end up paying more tax. So the government wins. Right? Thank you.
I think well said. I think the question was well received and answered. So I think these were the questions which we thought would be relevant for this panel discussion, assuming that our esteemed guest would get some level of inputs from your experience. But let us not confine ourselves to these questions. We would like to have some questions from the audience too. Right? So we have from the academics, from the finance, and of course ASBL CEO is here. And of course Mr. Ramesh with 40 years of experience, and he's into consulting, if I'm not wrong, sir, right now. And of course the construction tech. So all the elements of construction is here. So the floor is open to our esteemed guests and audience. If there are any questions related to which would be relevant to our speakers, our panelists, please, most welcome. We have some time in hand to take some questions. Can you just pass on the mic? So, please. I request to please introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Chandrasekhar, I'm a consultant with more into IT cybersecurity, but I think I know some of the panelists.
So can you be a little louder?
I'm Dr. Chandrasekhar, I'm a consultant but more into cybersecurity and not into IoT and other business as well. So I thought I'll ask a question. So I was listening to Chandra, listening to Ashutosh from industry academics, consulting, and see the industry aspect. If you look at the construction, there's a lot of progress that's been happening, like especially ASBL, etc. There are new trends that are trying to bring in good, which is towards the business part. But there's a lot to be done post business as well, which is connected with once you hand over the thing to the people. Where are we with respect to our ability in terms of managing such massive facilities? See, I look at the SCADA system. I'm a consultant, so I've seen enough of the process industries where you have enough equipment to world-class companies in there, where they have a lot of process equipment, technology, software, which have been run from Siemens days, 20 years onwards to today's current technology. There are a lot of applications that are available which actually help to run and manage in modern industry. Are we really geared up to manage a particular building post handover? So one part of it is construction, the second part of it is dedicated to the people, like we do people. And then where are we with respect to our system? Maybe I see in the audits I get to see. There are building management systems which we have like temperature, and, probably a few more other things, and few other parameters which we have. But the domestic needs are totally different. With the home automation equipment that is coming from the market, etc. Maybe facilities like this are good to come, but I think the biggest challenge that we have is are we really geared up to really handle such kind of schemes? I just wanted to hear from exactly we have in the other side, because I live in a community. One community got this job, went on to another, and now it is in the process of getting it because one of the hands over and get out of the facility. Chaos, ultimate chaos there, because there are no systems that have been available, and there have been no automation that actually talk about which actually help them to really monitor it. So, one of the reasons the facility here did not take any, they have just got 4,000 living in 2,000 families, and there's a human product to for all the guys. The most business is right there is not the CEOs of the company, the plumbers, electricians, screeners, okay? So there's a big queue of people standing in for their service and it's not even service. And primarily again, it's all because people have to work on WhatsApp or phone, but otherwise, what is the mechanism that we have? We are talking about so much of the technology, especially home automation integration. Post hand, probably it would be good to really hear if something has been coming in and it's there.
Again, thank you so much for your question, Doctor. I see a lot of frustration in your question too. Yeah? So, taking that frustration here, I'm sure a lot of them, I think Mr. Ramesh and Mr. any one of the, you're the right people, you're from the consultant, so you must be getting these agitated questions, right? Looking at the huge properties coming up. We just spoke about technology and it is when it is prepared and given to the customers. Now this problem starts post that. Right? So certainly.
Yeah, the question that you posed is something which is a question for us also. Because when we start designing the project, because generally I'm associated from the start, from the base project, the plans, so today a major part of the discussion for the builder as well as for the consultant is not just building it, but how is it going to be possible to maintain? What are the agencies which have to come in to maintain this, and also so that, because the builder also looks at it this way, that a well-maintained building is a better advertisement for him for all his projects. Right? So let me give you one example. My home Navadvipa, I think it must have about 15 years ago. At that time, I just taken over as a director in my home constructions. Right? So the first thing that we did when my home Navadvipa was 570 flats. So at that time, that was a big project. So when we came to handing it over, we said this is going to be our advertisement for our other projects. So in that sense, first this thing which we talked about was housekeeping. How do we do the housekeeping for these projects? Then we said, why do we have to restrict ourselves to something which happens in all the buildings, only a residential building? We went to the IT industry. We brought those people who were doing the housekeeping there with all the equipment. for the roads, the corridors, hall wall, equipment. So then we said, let's make a change in the sense how we approach this. So there was a well laid out plan to maintain the buildings, and also what builders have started since then. That was a project where about a certain amount was kept as a corpus for the, you see, which could have been, which to be used only for the capital expenses. It is not for the day-to-day expenses, right? So it started off there. We maintained the clubhouse also ourselves because there was one of the first clubhouses in that manner. So the industry, good builders are very well aware that what happens after construction is equally important or more important. And what is happening is, again, when I come to my home number 3, I'll just give you another example. The lifts then were ordered about 3 years ago along with some other project. So by the time the lifts were installed, they were already outdated. And today, in the last 2 years, I replaced all the lifts with the new lift back through the corpus fund interest that was generated. So we today have again all 16 lifts of the latest technology. So the next project that I designed in my home jewel, when I was ordering the equipment, the first question I asked the vendors, the lifts especially, because I had this experience, what is the next technology? So out of 2 vendors, only one person came forward saying that I will give you the next technology of gearless motors. Because I said, I'm going to order today, my project is going to be over in 3 years. And at that time, all will be starting giving gearless motors, and I will be behind. And then the other stage was introduced was that we start negotiating with the vendors, the original equipment suppliers, for a contract to maintain these equipment for 5 years at a fixed rate. So that means when we as are fixing it, we get a better discount, and the incentive for the owners is to continue with the original equipment supplier, rather than go out to someone who will say, I can do it much lower, because this person is already giving you a good price. So many of the things which are happening are, one is from the builder side, and then it is also the association which takes over. That continuity has to be there. And also technology is changing. In the changing, as I said, first project, we had to have, for getting internet, there was only one. So we had clean space, we had to build everything in there, the infrastructure, and then I used to get why are you giving me only one? Because that time the project was there were other vendors. Why are you giving me only one? The infrastructure cannot be built. So there are challenges on this side, but what I say today is no project is designed without taking up the facilities management after the project is complete. And so what has come in this, there are facilities management teams where we outsource it to them. And normally any project, at least for 2 years, the builder maintains it himself. To see that, because any project, because the issues come in because total occupancy is not there, plants run at a particular efficiency. So at a lower occupation, they don't run properly. So these are all issues. So these are things which are sorted out within these 2 years, and normally it should be possible to stabilize. And today we are talking of food delivery, how to get them in, where are these scooters going to be parked, where are the delivery vans to be parked, how is it going, how are they monitored, what is the security, and also apps have come in which start talking. So which is, communications has improved drastically. So communications is better, but the human element is there, that cannot be taken out. But still, as I said, today, no project is designed without taking this aspect into consideration.
Thank you. I hope your question has been answered. Just to add what he has, of course, very elaboratively said, sir, that he said that it is drastically changed, right? The way the maintenance is happening. I think most of us are living in gated communities. So the maintenance has drastically improved in the last decade. But the problem is the customers' expectations also have drastically increased. It is also gone to a next level, and I think this is the time where the construction industry has to catch up with our expectations. So, moving on to our next question. Yes, can we have the question from this gentleman?
Firstly, am I audible? So, firstly, to the panelists and the fellow engineers, happy National Engineering Day. This is a question to Ramesh Mandal sir. I think I want to also understand that the Indian codes. You know, we say codes are Bible for engineers, right? And if you see Indian codes, most of them are updated in the 70s, 80s, 2000s, early 2000s. Right now we are in the year 2022. And if you compare the global codes, do you think that Indian codes do we have a gap? This is a reason we need to have an updation. So what are your views, sir?
Can we know your name, sir?
I'm Mukesh Aduru, I'm a technical head from Hill India.
Thank you, Mukesh, for the question. So, will you take that?
Yeah, exactly. The codes have been formulated and there is a gap in it. So we also follow the other American codes or the US codes where they are relevant, where the Indian codes are not covering it. So it's mentioned in this. And I would say on the structural side, at least all buildings and also especially the aluminum formwork buildings, we have had the Indian codes are being revised, and we have had a recent discussion, a seminar, which disseminated information as to what are the changes that are coming in and draft codes were proposed. So I think there is a movement towards amending it and taking the experience and bringing it in line with most of the international codes. But normally, yes, there is a gap, but the other codes are available to us. We interpret it along with it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I hope your question has been answered. So, can we have another question? I think we have a room for another question. There. The Gen Z has a question.
Good evening, everyone, and happy English Day. This is Madhukar. I am a graduate from IIT Hyderabad. I graduated last year, and now I am working on my own startup. So it is a technical question for Vasudev sir and Ajitesh sir. So I would like to know what exactly motivated you. What is that extra edge or the catch point as compared to the existing solutions in the market that actually led you to build the application? Let's say, for example, there are solutions out from AWS, Azure for construction, AWS for the construction, and then the machine learning solutions by AWS for construction and all. And then there are also the other tools, like for example, if you consider a project management, for example, there are a lot of tools out in the market. So we can visualize a construction work similar to a kind of project management. Let's say, for example, there's a workflow, and then there's a person A, the laborer A, he needs to do so and so task. If it is done, then that task should be done by some other person. So it is like a task-based workflow, right? So there are already an existing solutions in the market, maybe from Oracle, ERP kind of thing and all. So why do you use those? So there might be some sort of motivation there. So I want to really know that one. And then my second question is that whatever application that was actually removed previously, so that was actually pretty good. Like we can say every floor and all, and then the number of rooms in the floor and all. But then if we consider for example, not to say an unstructured building, let's say for example a flyover, or let's say for example I'm constructing a floor. In that case, I don't have segments like floor 1, floor 2, and then in fifth floor, room 1, room 2, room 3, right? So it's not structured. Then how we are going to use this application in that way? So these are my questions.
Thank you. Maybe there are two questions. I think the first question, wherein you're asking about the motivation, I think Ajitesh, you should take that one.
Thank you for the question. So, see, with regarding to the motivation, so before we started upon this digital transformation, right, we looked at the various solutions. And our main point of view was that, see, technology has to accurately imitate the real world. Right? We need to model the real world, but not make a model and try to move the real world towards the model. It doesn't work that way. So a lot of the solutions which are already there, like what I mentioned earlier, is that they were not very easy to use from all the stakeholders' perspective. Right? We need that was one key motivation, because if the laborers are not taken into account in this transformation, then again this technology will be something which is left just in the corporate corridors. It wouldn't move out, right? So we wanted something which would fit very accurately to what happens on the ground. So that was our motivation, and it took us several iterations also to reach there. Like almost like until we reached like 35th or 36th iteration, we were nowhere close to its application. We were just on how does the model what we built replicate the reality in its true sense. Because only when the model replicates the reality to a very high degree of accuracy can you start deploying several machine learning algorithms and all of that, and start, your AI can start taking a lot of project management based decisions or support the project manager in his or her decision making, right? So that was the key motivation for us. Maybe the second one, Chandra can answer this.
Thank you for asking this question. See, what we have built is, our vision is to build a global solution. In fact, we also have few customers in US. We have few customers who are in electrical and instrumentation space. They call, like whatever you're seeing, the floors and everything, right? They call something like systems. Like they call some, locations what you're looking at, like flat and all, they call tags. So when you apply this in a different environment, it's going to change, right? So we understand that. So that's why we have a design principle. The design principle itself is to create a framework which is completely configurable. We call it as a do-it-your-way. So where we actually create a framework behind it. When we actually start implementing it, as I said, we actually work with the business, right? We understand how their model is, right? And we try to replicate. We use our framework obviously, and try to set the project in such a way that it is more adaptable to them. Okay. In case of your flyover example or airport example, right? No matter the names can change, but still there will be a hierarchy, there will be a structure, like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, right? So our platform provides that flexibility where you can configure n number of levels and use your own names, right? And more personalize the solution according to your business needs. That's actually the part of our design principle itself. The reason for that also is industry demands personalization. Because each business they feel that like if they don't see their names, they don't feel connected to it. Okay, so the architecture that we have designed actually accommodates that configuration flexibility. Okay. So did I answer the question?
I hope they've answered your question. I know there are many number of questions revolving around your head.
And just to add, like how there are floors in the building. In a flyover, it's just like columns, right? Columns. So you can configure this particular application in any manner you want.
Are you satisfied? Or we go on? Yeah, thank you. I think Mr. Ramesh wants to add.
See, for any is the change management which people are going to use it. You have to understand that it is the people who have to use it, and there is always a resistance to change. So this has to be taken up gradually. It is something which comes, and I have seen any new product, this thing which is being introduced, there is always a resistance. There is a gestation time limit for this. And once it picks up, it starts going. Then everything starts going. But until then, there are certain iterations. The change management has to be brought in. It has to be brought in at the lowest level. Because in the construction industry, the lowest level are majority of the people who are working are laborers. They're uneducated, they won't be using any of these. But it doesn't mean that these tools are required by the engineers and everyone to start bringing in efficiency in their work. Because today the major challenge is manpower. So unless we are able to use it efficiently, it will. There is always going to be cost overruns, time overruns. So all these are again tools which we are going to implement, we are going to use, which gives the management, the engineers who are controlling the project information immediately. So he doesn't have to say that there's something going wrong, something is off schedule. He doesn't have to wait for some design review or anything. Today the information is available to him in his office. He can see this MIS reports, and then he understands. So he analyzes that, gives us this thing. That is what is going to happen. So that analyzes the report and taking action is what it is. So these tools are all very, very powerful tools which will have to be implemented, and it will have to increase as the time goes on. Because we are going into an area where manpower reduction, mechanization, and efficiency. 90% of the savings that we get is less wastage. Many a time everyone says, oh, what are you doing with designing? Can you reduce this? No, that is not the savings. It is in the method of construction. It is the method of not wasting materials, time. That is where the efficiency is. That is where the economy is. So proper planning, sequence of activities, and following it up, and seeing and being on it all the time to analyze where it is going off.